Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about social driving, the problems you face every day when you're on the roadways. Expecting somebody else not to do something goofy is like going to watch your favorite sports team and expecting the other team not to score. It's simply not a reality. Other people are going to do goofy things. They're going to cut you off. They're going to speed. They're going to charge yellow lights. They're not going to come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. This is just something that happens all the time. Trying to get people to come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections is simply not a reality. It's not something that's ever going to happen. Videos to have a look at for better defensive driving, 5 defensive driving skills. Corey put up those videos for you, and new drivers. If you just got your driver's license, definitely have a look at those tips and strategies to keep yourself safe after you get your license and you do not get into a crash, because you are at highest risk in the first year after getting your driver's license. So stay safe and get through that first year of driving. Social driving is one of the things that unites us as a human race, regardless of religion, politics, or creed. And most drivers on the roadway, excluding all of the smart drivers here today, would agree with the statement, I am a good driver. And if you can get past that and say to yourself, yes, there is still lots to learn, then you are going to significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. A lot of people over your driving career will come back to you and say, I've been driving for 20 years, never had a crash. That's a poor indicator of whether you were a good driver or not, all right? I've been putting my pants on since I was 4 years old. I never went out of the house without my pants on. That doesn't mean I'm a snappy dresser. No more than not crashing after 20 years means that you're a good driver. So it's a poor indicator of whether you were a good driver or not. People who drive, for the most part, unless they take a defensive driving course, are reactionary and retaliatory. They're going to react to what other people do when they make mistakes, and they're going to cuss them out. And they may even cut them off or drive in front of them and then hit the brake. Drivers are reactionary. They follow too close. Don't come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. They stop too close to traffic when they're in a queue of traffic, and they drive too close to other road users, pedestrians and cyclists and those types of things. 1 meter, 3 feet minimum from walking in the residential area today, and this car followed me across the intersection and then parked, and I did not feel safe. I do not like having a car following me behind me when I'm walking on the roadway. Nose to tail, this is one of the theories about why people drive badly and why people do not communicate, because think of it when you're standing in a line at a grocery store, right? You're standing behind the other person. You're not compelled to engage in conversation with that person in front of you because you're looking at their back. It's the same thing when we're sitting in traffic. When we're sitting in traffic, we're looking at the back end of the vehicle in front of us. All right? So we don't communicate well when we're driving. When traffic slows down, vehicles are even closer. So the other indicator that traffic is slowing down is the spaces between the vehicles gets closer together. And the reason that you need to know that is because you need to observe that. You need to say to yourself, okay, the vehicles in front of me are slowing down. I need to get slowed down. I need to get my foot off the accelerator, and I need to start to slow down. Especially now that we're coming into winter, you need to be much more observant and more proactive. You need to get slowed down sooner, especially for those of you in the northern states, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, right? Because you want to get slowed down back from where you actually want to stop, and then you want to creep up. Misperceptions, too close in queues, getting rear-ended. We know that rear-end crashes are the #1 crashes in North America, and not only you being rear-ended, but you rear-ending other vehicles, and we give you lots of tips and strategies for that. Most important, following distance, 3 to 4 second following distance, stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back. If you can implement those 2 skills, you are going to significantly decrease your chances of being involved in a crash. Just those 2 skills, 3 to 4 second following distance at all times, and stopping back in traffic 1 vehicle length. Now, there are people who are coming back and will say to me, oh, if you're driving like that, you're not going anywhere. Believe me, I am an aggressive driver when I drive. I'm always at the posted speed limit. I'm always going as fast as I can, but I never compromise that space in front of my vehicle. I always have that 3 to 4 second following distance. I always stop back in traffic 1 vehicle length. All right, communications. Drivers fail to communicate. Drivers are not going to signal every time they change direction of their vehicle. It's just a matter of driving, okay? But there are other indicators that they are going to change directions of their vehicle, okay? They're slowing down in relationship to an intersection. They're moving to the right. They're wandering in the lane if they're going to change lanes, those types of things. I'm trying to get in the center of the screen here, and it's not really working out here. So, drivers will not communicate effectively. Unpredictable actions are erratic and often without warning, but that's not true. There is warning. There is indicators of what other road users are doing, and they will let you know that. Driving is emotional, and I am guilty of this as anybody else. Okay? An elevator fan, we had a discussion with his parents about being emotional. When you're driving, we're all emotional. We all police other drivers. I police other drivers. And just in the comments, let me know, what is the one thing that other drivers do, other road users do, that just absolutely drives you crazy, that just is your pet peeve? I know for me that it is slow drivers that will not do the speed limit. Oh, drives me crazy. And of course, you know, I was a taxi driver, I was a truck driver, I was a bus driver. Yes, I am indeed, in fact, policing other drivers and telling them where the accelerator pedal is, that it is on the right. Can we go? And I don't know what it is about the town of Vernon where I live. It's the same thing getting off an intersection. Can you just get your foot into it and get it up to speed as quickly as possible? Sigma, hello, how are you, my friend? Okay, crowding, honking, the finger, road rage, these are some of the minor incidents of policing other drivers, okay? But it can get into physical altercations when you're driving. All right, right of way, following too close, failing to give way, and I'm right, you're wrong. These are the reasons for traffic crashes because, again, as we say, driving is emotional, and if you can control your emotion, you can go, okay, well, that happened because I know that that's going to happen because we're in the arena of social driving and people are going to do goofy things. You know that, all right? So, calm awareness of what's going on around you, reading traffic signs, being predictable on the roadways, all of this is going to keep you safe when you're driving. Talking about social driving, we're talking the problems that you face every day out on the roadway and skills, techniques, and abilities that you can put in place. Okay, one of the first things that you can put in place, reading road signs, traffic signs, gleaning the information from those traffic signs, because most people on the roadway do not read traffic signs. They simply follow what is going on with everything else on the roadway. Read the road signs, and from those road signs, you can predict traffic patterns on the roadway. And by predicting the traffic patterns on the roadway, you can begin to understand the actions of individual road users. For example, you are coming up, you see the merge sign, and you know that traffic is going to move over to the left, and somebody is too far up, they're near the choke point of that merge lane. You know that they're going to move over at the last second. So take note of the merge sign, take note of where vehicles are positioned in relation to the choke point, and know that somebody may cut you off. They didn't cut you off, it's simply that they're not paying attention to what's going on the roadway and they just move into your lane there at the very last. Take note of traffic signs, because traffic signs will determine traffic patterns, and from those traffic patterns you can understand the actions of individual road users, where they are in relation to the choke point of the merge and where that's going to happen. We know that the way that people communicate is not with lights and signals. The way that people communicate is the position of their vehicle on the roadway, the position of the road user in relation to the road space, okay? So if, for example, if there's a pedestrian standing at the crosswalk, there's a high probability that that pedestrian is going to get out on the roadway and cross the roadway. If a car is slowing down in relation to an intersection, is moving the vehicle to the right, there's a high probability that that person is going to turn right. So the position of the vehicle, the position of the road user in relation to something else. We go back to the example of the merge point in relation to the choke point. They're going to do something goofy, okay? But it's not goofy because you were watching, you were observing, you looked at the road signs, and you figured out that that driver, in fact, was falling asleep at the wheel, so to speak, and didn't notice the merge point, and then at the very last second was moving over at the choke point. This is what happened. Lack of distraction. Yes, distraction is definitely one of them. People not paying attention about what's going on. And we go back to the example of traffic signs, people not reading traffic signs and determining what the traffic patterns are, how drivers and other road users are going to move through space and place. And I had a smart driver send me an interesting intersection in Maryland this morning outside of Baltimore. And I'm going to do a case study of that because it's a very interesting intersection, and it's an old intersection, and they're asking one stretch of highway to do 3 or 4 things. And the smart driver wanted to know about the yield sign that was at this intersection and who the yield sign applied to and what was the purpose of it. The problem is, as I said, is that the way that the road is designed, they're asking one stretch of road to do 2 or 3 things. And the best way that I can explain it, think of old houses. You always have a thoroughfare in a house. For example, to get from the kitchen to the bathroom, you have to go through there's a hallway, right? Or my house in Sydney, for example, you have to go through the kitchen, right? So the kitchen serves as a thoroughfare. And you're asking the kitchen to do 2 things. It's a kitchen, but it's also a thoroughfare. It's also a hallway. And sometimes old roadways, the way they were designed, are asked to do 2 or 3 things, and drivers are expected to deal with these 2 or 3 things all at the same time. And when traffic gets really busy, it confuses drivers and they can't figure out what they need to do. And especially on this stretch of highway, because you make the right turn in the slip lane, the turning lane, and the lane automatically goes and is the entryway to the interstate. It's the beltway. It's not the interstate, but it's the freeway. And also you have to merge out onto the state road. And this confuses drivers. So it'll be an interesting case study, and I want to know if there's somebody in Maryland who might be able to go out and get me some video of that. I'll ask the smart driver. They asked to remain anonymous, but we're going to try and do that for you. DJ, how are you, my friend? Driving instructor in New York City. Yes, awesome. You're here. Baltimore's bad. Anywhere near the 495 Capital Beltway is always rush hour. Thank you for that, Young. Ross, and I've been watching your videos about driving at night, and the reason why is because I'm starting a job at midnight. I'm going to be a new chapter in my life. And yes, definitely driving at night. Be aware of fatigue, right, when you're driving at night. And also there aren't, the farther you get away from cities, ambient light, those types of things, the more you're going to rely on the headlights of your vehicle, and it becomes more difficult to drive at night. Marion is here. Hello, my friend. And Ross, and yes, a bit of a beard going on here, going through a bit of a reconsideration of my life and those types of things. And think of it, it's comparable to women cutting or coloring. I can't say that word, not cuddling, coloring their hair. Evan, if there's 2 lanes merge into one, the person closer to the merging point has the right of way. By the way, it's fine to wait in the median strip if you interfere with nobody. I don't know about that one, the last piece there that you're talking about, but it's not always the person closer to the choke point has the right of way, Evan. It's usually the person in the through lane has the right of way. So for example, if you're coming up, the right lane ends and the people in the left lane, that's the through lane. The people in the left lane tend to have the right of way. Now this is something that is controversial, and if you do get into a crash, it's something that that is going to be deliberated by authorities such as myself in a court of law. Could the other person have let off, or the other person failed to give the right of way, helping other people out, and those types of things. And then you get into a whole different set of criteria if you get into professional drivers, like driving instructors, bus drivers, transit bus drivers, coach drivers, truck drivers, those types of things, because they are held to a higher standard of care. And this is what court cases come down to is who had the higher standard of care, and did they do due diligence in driving and protecting themselves and protecting other people on the roadway. So this is what happens. So it's never it's straightforward black and white rule about who has the right of way and who doesn't have the right of way. Alex, I live in New York City. It's hectic. Yes, it is busy. I've been to New York City, driven across the Brooklyn Bridge and those types of things. So yes, indeed, it is video. Getting ready for winter. Young, yes, definitely getting ready for winter for sure. Although, Rawson, with the beard, there's a lot more gray than the last time I had a beard, which is probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. There's a lot more gray in my beard. Zachariah, hi Rick, I'm watching from Nambia. Love your videos. You really helped me get my license, and that is awesome. So glad we could help out. 172, yeah, hardcore memory of driving to Florida in 2015 when it was 8 years and sitting on the 495 Beltway for 4 hours. Yes, that is not something you want to do, is sit in traffic on an interstate or freeway. Status, what body language drivers are carrying when they block the intersection, including a driver at a stop sign trying to turn left or right? Yes, very anxious because they know that they're into the intersection and that is not where they should be. So yes, drivers are anxious. And also be careful of those drivers who are sitting in intersections or doing something that they know that they shouldn't be doing. Oftentimes they will do something unexpected to clear the intersection, to get moving out of the way, or those types of things. Nerd, wow, 2 months and you look completely different. That's awesome. That's probably what a bit of time will do for you being off there. Garden State, welcome back. Thank you, my friend. Imagine what it was like for people going northbound in Florida because of the hurricanes. Young, yeah, because of the hurricanes, that would have been congestion, crazy congestion, and hours being on the interstate. You definitely would have wanted to take the state roads and avoid being on the interstate for sure. Carrie, drivers that cut me off in traffic and pedestrians who cross during a green light are pet peeves of mine. Yes, they are. Garden State, fun story. Many years ago, someone gave me the finger. I told him to pull over. I got out of the car and so did he. And his 4 friends never did road rage again. Yes, and that's the thing about road rage, is you don't know who's going to get out of the vehicle and confront you. And I've told this story about the butcher that I worked with when I was living in Australia. He came in on the weekend and he had a big black eye. And of course, I was laughing and teasing him about it the whole time we were working on shift. And I asked him what was going on, and he said he wouldn't tell me. He was embarrassed because he was a big bloke. He was probably 100 kilos, which is 220 pounds. And he wouldn't tell me what happened, how he got the big black eye. And then finally, at the end of the shift, he finally told me what happened was it was a road rage incident. They both pulled over. The other person got out of the car, walked up, didn't even say anything to him, and just like punched him in the face. And that's how he got his black eye, in a road rage incident. So that's what happened to him. So like I said, road rage incidents, never get out of the car, never roll down your windows, never take pictures of the person, because people cannot stay angry for more than 2 minutes. So if you do not engage with the person who is having an anger fit, they probably won't take it very, any farther. I mean, there are all kinds of clips on social media where people rip the mirrors off people's cars and those types of things, especially cyclists and those types of things. But for the most part, if you don't engage, don't pull your phone out and start videoing them and yelling at them and saying you're going to call the police and whatnot. Okay? Because that's simply, adding fuel to the fire and causing them to be angry. If you don't do that, they're probably just going to yell at you, get their frustration out, and then they're going to carry on with their life. So do not fuel the road rage incident. Rawson, road rage is much worse. A lot of people die from road rage, and the thing that people do is stay in the vehicle. And the other thing about the United States is a lot of people carry guns. Okay, so there's a good possibility that, you could get shot. So if you can drive away and drive to a place, a crowded place, or some place where there's lots of people around and those types of things, you can probably, defuse the situation and keep yourself safe. Elevator fan, my mom rolled down the window when someone came up to the vehicle. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that you do that. Don't roll down the windows. Don't unlock the doors. Don't take pictures. Don't talk to them. Just stare straight ahead. If you can drive away, then simply just drive away. You know, they may follow you and those types of things, but if they do follow you, go to a place where there's lots of people, it's crowded or those types of things. If you feel that you were in danger when you're moving and you have a passenger in the vehicle or someone else, you know, you can call 911 and alert the police to what's going on and those types of things. But be careful in road rage incidents. Michael, how do you go about handling groups of motorcyclists who ride in gang groups and block your road and propose to slow you down? Michael, I can't say that I've ever had that happen. That sounds serious. And are they slowing you down for the purpose of trying to get you stopped, or are they simply just slowing down? Because if you feel that your life is in danger, then that is a very different situation than, you know, motorcycle groups who are just messing with you and just surrounding you and slowing you down to scare you and those types of things. As I have said before here on the live stream, you know, generally in terms of my emotion, especially when I'm driving my car, I'm pretty good about it. You know, I just let other people go on and have their life and those types of things. But if I'm on my bicycle and somebody does something goofy or does something stupid, then I get, you know, 0 to 100 really quickly. It's difficult for me to control my emotions when I'm on my bicycle or when I'm on as a pedestrian, especially if I'm on a roadway and I'm crossing the roadway and somebody is making a left-hand turn and drives right up to me, like 2 feet away from me. That really, really upsets me. And it is incredibly dangerous on the part of the car driver. And you know, they just look at you going, what am I doing? What are you doing? You're crowding a vulnerable road user. And when that happens to me, I just lose it. There is yelling involved when people do that to me. Sometime elevator. Yes, definitely, my friend. Marion, as a new driver, you are allowed to pull out your phone to call emergency while driving, or should you pull over first? Marion, if you got hands-free set, you can call 911. And most phones it's pretty easy to phone 911. Now, I don't know about the particulars of that. If Tim was here, he would be able to give us the particulars about that. I would need to look into that and get back to you. I'm just leaving myself a note here. Registered drivers in Metro Vancouver are so bad during the morning and evening, especially Teslas. Teslas, yes. So you have a thing for Teslas. Other people have a thing for Subarus. My thing, I think, is Mustang drivers. You know, people driving Mustangs. But yeah, they're all having their difficult challenges for sure. Nerd, you can call 911 even without unlocking your phone. Yes, I know that. There's a way that you can do those kinds of things and phone 911 pretty quickly on your phone to get help. And like I said, it's only if you feel that you're in danger with something that other people are doing on the roadways. Taxi RAV4s are insane. Rawson says he wants to have a Mustang. Tesla drivers, yes. Marion seems to be on board with the Tesla drivers there in Vancouver. Appreciate you putting on the video on finding intersections and scanning for hidden intersections. It was really helpful. I'm glad, Carrie, that we could help you out with that for sure. So social driving, this is what we're talking about, driving as a social activity, getting along with other people. And of course, there are road rules that you have to follow. And as we've talked about in terms of merging, who has the right of way, this can sometimes be confusing and it is not clear. In the case study that I was talking to you about in Maryland, there is a yield sign, but it's not clear about who the yield sign applies to and which drivers it applies to, because as I said, there are 2 or 3 different activities that the roadway is being asked to do. For example, it is an entryway to the Beltway. And second, it is a entryway onto the state road. So to get onto the state road, you have to merge onto the state road. But for people coming from the state road going to the Beltway, they have to merge from the state road onto that entryway. And it's one of those old acceleration, deceleration lanes that were common with freeways in the early years, the 1950s and 1960s. Most of them have been eliminated now, that those are gone, where the acceleration lane and the deceleration lane are gone, but there's still a few of them that exist and are around, and I know that there is one in Kamloops, and I need to go up and do some video of that on-ramp, off-ramp, our acceleration lane, deceleration lane, where it's being asked, the stretch of roadway is being asked to do two separate functions, and it is really confusing to drivers who aren't fully aware or are new and don't have a great deal of experience when driving. It is confusing to them. Eric, pet peeve, swerving when radio adjusting, texting too. Yes, lots of people messing around with what's going on inside the car. They're playing with their phone, especially with the telematics, with all the newer cars that have those big screens in the middle. And it's not only those big screens in the middle, but also all the information that is available to you on the screen. You know, why do we need to know the average fuel economy, how many miles we have left until the fuel runs out? All this excessive amounts of information that is completely redundant to most drivers. Because my mom's van had it, and as Carrie, I met Carrie and I met Evan, Eric rather, elevator fan, sorry, there in the States when I was driving across to my mom's. And you're driving down the interstate and you get bored and you start flipping through this information, and you're like, it has no relevance, and it is simply distracting to the driver. And the car that we had in Australia, it had 7 different versions of the instrument panel. Why do you need 7 different versions of the instrument panel? That's just crazy. And again, it's distracting because you're going down the road, your mind starts to drift and those types of things, and then you start flipping through the instrument panels. It's distracting. Cars now are distracting. And so know that when you're driving. And the other piece about this, as we get more observation technology in the cars, observation technologies include backup cameras, blind spot detectors, proximity sensors, 360-degree cameras around the vehicles. The more that these are integrated into automotive technology, the less it begins to erode people's ability to drive. I put a question up on the weekend, and I know that a lot of people lied about whether they back up using their backup camera for those that have backup cameras, or whether they back up using all their observation tools. And I know it was like 9% say, oh, I use my backup camera. It's a lot higher than that, because I see people in parking lots when I'm going through the parking lot and they're backing up, and they're backing up like this. There's no awareness around the vehicle of what's going on. They're glued into the backup camera. It's the same thing with blind spot detectors. People no longer shoulder check. It's one of the first skills that drivers lose after getting their license. Oh, I don't have to shoulder check because I just drove past that section of roadway. There's nobody there. Well, as we say, and as I've told you previously, most drivers crash once every 15 to 17 years. So putting in place driving habits that are going to keep you safe are not going to keep you safe and prevent a crash tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, but they're going to keep you safe in 5 years. That's what's going to happen. It's every now and again. And this is the challenge of driving, that it is not a hit it and quit it thing. And Marion asked me this question previously about why do I need to shoulder check when I'm turning left and there's a concrete Marion in the middle of the road. It's not about shoulder checking at that point of that section of that roadway. It's about creating the habit. So when you get tired, when you're fatigued, when you're distracted by your car or any other number of things, that you have created that driving habit that you just automatically shoulder check every time you change lanes, every time you turn. It's the same thing with signaling. The number of people that have come back to me and said on the 3-point turn, you don't have to signal 3 times. That's not the point. The point is to create driving habits that every time you change directions of the vehicle, every time you change lanes, you signal, you create the habit so that when you get tired, when you make mistakes, when you're not up to the task of driving, The habits will take over and will keep you safe. It's about creating safe driving habits. Those safe driving habits, following 2 to 3 second following distance and stopping back in traffic, 1 vehicle length behind the traffic in front of you. So when you get tired, when you make mistakes, when other people make mistakes and do something goofy, it's going to keep you safe on the roadways. Creating the driving habits. Because technology, observation technologies, the proximity sensors, the blind spot detectors, the backup cameras, these are just backups and aids for good driving skills. Know that when you're driving. Elevator fan, I've seen drivers hesitate for a second or two when the light turns green sometimes. Yes, because they're not paying attention about what's going on at the intersection. They're distracted by something else. Their phone, other traffic, those types of things. Michael, blind spots are very important. Almost every car has a blind spot. Every vehicle, Michael, has a blind spot. The bigger the vehicle, the bigger the blind spot. Pickup trucks, trailers, those types of things. There's a lot going on there. Registered, I think some backup cameras are really good though and show a big area, still good to look to the surroundings. Registered, I don't disagree. I believe that backup cameras are in fact really good. However, they are not they're not comprehensive. They're not going to show you everything around your vehicle. Okay, know that. And I've heard stories of lots of people who have got into crashes backing up. For example, my mom's neighbor, Don, he is a lovely person, but he has the latest car. You know, he's got a Ford F-150, all the proximity sensors, buzzers, bells, backup cameras, and those types of things. He backed into my cousin's car in the adjacent driveway, even with all that stuff, because the technology in his truck is eroding his good driving skills, and he's not paying attention. Young, $20. Thank you so much, my friend, for the super chat there. That is lovely. Thank you so much. I got my driver's license 2017, thanks to you, 2 weeks ago. I got my real estate license. I will be using both licenses to drive to homes and show homes to home buyers. Maybe I should get a fishing license next. That is absolutely awesome. What a great story. Just got your real estate license. Terrific. Congratulations, my friend. That is just incredible news. You just made my day. You just made my day, because I came home from jiu-jitsu and I was feeling a bit down, and you just made my day. Corey put up how to learn to drive and determine blind spots around your vehicle. Thank you for that. Rawson, my brother has been into a car accident. He is all right and his vehicle is all right. That is good news. Any crash that you can walk away from, Rawson, is really good. Marion, I do a slow takeoff from the stop most of the time, especially if the next traffic light is red. Yes, indeed. And the other piece about it, coming back to people not paying attention, I got ahead of myself there. In a passenger vehicle, before you take off, you're going to scan the intersection, left, center, right, left again. Okay, because if you're going to get T-boned at the intersection because somebody ran the red light, you're going to pause and then you're going to go. So exactly what Marion just said. So before you take off at the intersection, looking for those goofy people who may be doing something dumb, like running the red light, left, center, right, left again. That will prevent you getting T-boned by somebody running the traffic light. So know that. Elevator fan, it is dark in Indiana. Yes, and it's getting dark here a lot earlier too. Winter is coming, my friends. Winter is coming. Social driving. We're talking about other people doing goofy things. The problems that you are dealing with on the roadways when you're driving. And as I said, and I will repeat this again because it bears repeating, we often get stressed and anxious when we're driving because what happens in the driving environment does not meet up with our expectations, especially if you are a new driver and you have been driving around and you've been taught that you got to come to a complete stop at every stop sign. Drivers that have had their license for any period of time are not going to come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. And I was in a driver education class years ago, and the instructor said they should just take out all the stop signs and they should just put in yield signs. And I don't disagree with that statement, because people do not come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. Know that. All right? Know that people are going to do that. Know that people are going to speed. People are not going to signal. If you can get this stuff in your head, that this is what people are going to do when they're driving, when you're on the roadways, pedestrians are going to jaywalk, especially in New York City. For those of the smart drivers here from New York City, people are going to jaywalk. They're going to do it all the time. Cars are going to double park. For those of you who don't know what double parking is, so you've got the curb lane and there's a row of parked cars along there. And then in New York City, parking is so limited that if there's a delivery van, they will come up and they will park beside the parked vehicle to go into the store and make their delivery. It's called double parking. It's part and parcel of the culture of driving in New York City. And if you know that there are vehicles that are going to be double parked, then you're going to have to get out and pass. When it happens, you're going to go, oh, that happened. Now I just got to figure out how to get out and get around this vehicle and get on with my day and start driving. Or when somebody doesn't signal in front of you, you're going to go, oh yeah, somebody didn't signal, but I knew that they were going to turn right because they were moving to the right and they were slowing down as they were approaching the intersection. So, big deal, whatever. Okay, so know that if you can begin to understand that people are going to do goofy and unpredictable things on the roadway, it's going to line up with your expectations, and you're going to be able to reduce your stress and anxiety when you're driving. And if you can do that, you're going to be a safer, smarter driver. Marion, today was a special day because no one used their indicators, so it was a guessing game out there today. Yes, that's what happens. Corey, yep, it's sunset here in Winnipeg. Winter is coming in Winterpeg, yes. Corey, do you guys have daylight savings times there in Winnipeg? I know that Saskatchewan doesn't, and I know that the state of Indiana doesn't, but those are the only two places. But I don't know whether Manitoba, you're in the city of Winnipeg, which is in the province of Manitoba. Carrie, it was great meeting with you in Minnesota. Thank you for the great pointer about driving more in the center of the lane. I have been practicing that ever since we met. Appreciate it. And that is awesome. I just wish, Carrie, that I wasn't in such a rush that I could have spent more time. Like I said, when I was talking to you and Eric, that I really should have planned for 7 or 8 days as opposed to 5 days of driving across the states. I would have had a much more pleasant trip. Eric, also forgetting to put lights on and fixing taillights if burned out. Yes, and once a week, it's always good to walk around your vehicle, make sure all the lights are working, make sure the signal lights are working, doing pre-trip inspections every now and again on your vehicles. And if you don't have low pressure warning sensors for your tires, once a month, check the tire pressure in your tires. If some people here may or may not be getting ready for winter time and putting on their snow tires and whatnot, checking pressure, getting them balanced. A lot of times you're going to be taking your vehicle into a tire shop, and getting your winter tires put on your vehicle and those types of things. I have all the stuff in the garage, and my winter tires are mounted on rims, so I just put my own on in the garage. Same with oil changes. I just do oil changes on the vehicle, on the buggy and whatnot. Oh, Marion, my mom was so stoked about her new van. Not nearly as much as my brother was, because as I was saying before I left in July, the van, I didn't realize that this van was a Pontiac, Pontiac, now the name has escaped me. It was a sport edition. All right. And my brother looked at the van when I got it home there, and he looked at it and he goes, this thing belongs in the Pontiac Museum. It was in that good of condition. And, he did the safety on it and those types of things. And the other piece that was hilariously funny was those vans came with an air suspension on them. So they have a compressor in them, and they have an air suspension, air shocks on the back of it. And I drove it all the way across the states. I actually took it into the shop and got it looked at before I left. And I was going to say to my mom, I said, don't put Michelin tires on it because the suspension it's a marshmallow suspension. And and I remember now that I was talking to all the smart drivers on the live stream about the suspension being a marshmallow suspension. And so my brother got it in, he got it safety. My mom and I went over to get the license plates, and get it registered and whatnot. And I get in the van and I drive the van, and I said to my brother later, I said, what did you do to the van? I said, because it doesn't have that marshmallow suspension anymore. And he chuckled a little bit, and he said, we hooked up the suspension, the air compressor, back to the suspension again. So I drove it all the way from British Columbia, 4,000 kilometers, 3,200 miles, without the suspension working properly on it, all the way across the United States. And, you know, I had it into a shop, and I was entirely disappointed with the fact that they did not figure out that the air suspension wasn't hooked up on the back of it. So then after that, I mean, it drove absolutely beautiful. And, you know, not to mention, you know, it's got a V6 engine in it. My brother got in and he says, yeah, get a speeding ticket with this thing. And as many of you may or may not know, the speed limit in Montana is 80 miles an hour. It's 140 kilometers an hour all the way across Montana. And I mean, that thing didn't even hesitate. And, you know, fuel's cheaper in the States. It was only $100 US to fill it up completely right from empty, and it would go 900 kilometers, which is 600 miles on a tank of fuel. And so it did really well. And, you know, I kind of enjoyed driving it. And my mom was just absolutely over the moon with it, you know, with getting a new vehicle. So, yeah, that worked out really well. Honored to see you out here in Minnesota. I learned so much from you, too. Thank you so much, Eric. That is absolutely awesome, my friend. Don't jaywalk. Yes, don't jaywalk. For those of you who don't know what jaywalking is, it's when you don't cross the street at an intersection or at a crosswalk. That is what jaywalking is. And actually, this is one of the reasons that they're contributing higher pedestrian deaths in the United States. And also, there is a gender and race component to people being struck by cars, higher numbers of pedestrian deaths. Marion, awesome to hear. Yes, it was. And Eric says that $3.23 a gallon today in Minnesota for fuel, which is cheap, really cheap. I love driving in the States and buying fuel there because it is so much less expensive than it is here. It's $1.60 a liter, which I don't know is like $5 a gallon here in Canada. It's just crazy how expensive fuel is here in Ontario. Rawson, have you ever heard of economy mode? Yes, I have heard of economy mode, and there are vehicles that have economy mode in them. And basically all it is gearing in the transmission so that it doesn't rev out and those types of things. It's the same thing as sports cars. Pontiac, Montana. Thank you, Sean. I don't know why I was having a brain cramp on the Pontiac, Montana. Yes, so my mom's Pontiac, Montana. If you look at most of the Pontiac Montanas, if it's not a sport edition, it's shorter, right? And I realized this when I got home because my mom had another Pontiac Montana and it was a lot shorter, like probably 2 or 3 feet shorter. And I'm working on a course for the Ohio Maneuverability test. And I used my mom's Pontiac Montana, which was 17 feet long because I measured it to do the Ohio Maneuverability test. For those of you in Ohio, should be up at the end of the month here. And I'm going to sell it for, I don't know, $20 US, the Ohio Maneuverability test. And we show you how to do that with the buggy, which is 15 feet long. We show you how to do it with the minivan, which is 17 feet long, and then we show you how to do it with a full-size pickup, which is 21 feet long, and how to do that successfully with those 3 different vehicles in the Ohio Maneuverability test. Elevator, the highest speed limit in Indiana is 70 miles an hour. Yeah, elevator, it's quite a bit different in Montana. Like I said, I-90, I-94, all the way across Montana is, you know, unless you get near the cities like Butte and Billings, the speed limit is 80 miles an hour all the way across there. So, you know, that's really great. Eric, even at Costco gas too, about 20 cents less. Yes. And Marion was saying that in Vancouver, Marion, are you still in Vancouver or are you on Vancouver Island now? $1.87 here today at Costco. No, not at Costco, just $1.87. Eric, North Dakota is 75 miles an hour. Yep. So it was a lot of fun driving along across the states. But as I said, even from Washington State, so say Spokane to Detroit, Michigan, even 5 days is a big push to get across there. That's a big push. So, know that if you're going to drive across the United States of America, say you're going to do a trip from Los Angeles to New York City, you probably want to book 10 days at least, because it's a lot of driving, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Young, even with 70 miles an hour limit, I see people easily going 90 miles an hour. Yes, and people will do that, which is crazy. And there was a meme on Facebook or Twitter, I don't remember where it was, somebody getting pulled over in the state of Montana, and the caption was, "The speed limit's 80 miles an hour. How fast were you going?" No, I'm still here in Vancouver, but I want to move to the island if possible. Okay, still in Vancouver. Awesome. Elevator, I am so glad that I got to go to lunch with you. And yes, Elevator, it was absolutely awesome, my friend. Really great having lunch with you and meeting you, my friend. So lots of good things happen on the trek across the United States of America. Social driving. And for those of you getting your driver's license, the 4 components that you need in place to get your driver's license: space management, speed management, observation, communication. Those are the 4 tools that you need in place to keep yourself safe. Social driving plays a part in getting your driver's license, because the other piece of social driving is peer pressure. Hurry up and go. You are in my flippin' way. And for new drivers that have had their license for a very short period of time, this is real, this pressure of hurry up and go. And because you lack experience in dealing with that pressure of hurry up and go, sometimes it will lead to, you making mistakes when you're driving. So focus on what you're doing. If somebody else is crowding you, tailgating you, or honking the horn, simply focus on what you're doing to keep yourself safe. This is one of the things that you have to learn when you're driving, because as I said, the peer pressure to hurry up and go is very real when you're driving. Epic, 290 to 350 in Speedway in New Jersey. Highest speed limit here in New Jersey is 65 miles an hour in 1998, when they increased it from 50 to 60. 1960s all the way to 1998. Neighboring Pennsylvania is 70 miles an hour. Retired, I want to do another cross-country trip across America in 2025. And retired, I certainly suggest that you do that. And the place that I noticed the geography changed the most was in the Dakotas. When I was in South Dakota? No, I was in North Dakota. Came across North Dakota. That was where the geography really changed from the western United States and kind of that plains geography and, sub-Sahara kind of desert and the Badlands sort of thing into that kind of rolling grasslands and farmland was kind of the demarcation between those two things. And it might have been because I want to say the Mississippi River, but I know the Mississippi River doesn't go that far north. But that was kind of the demarcation between east and west, and the real change in geography when I was driving across the states. But as I said, it was a great trip, and driving across, and got to meet some smart drivers and have lunch and a meal and those types of things. But as I said, if I do it again, I'm definitely going to take a lot more time and do a lot more videoing and those types of things, because I don't know what I was thinking when I was planning this. Obviously, I had a lot of other stuff going on, and I wasn't thinking clearly about how much time it takes to not only drive 3,200 miles, but also to do the videoing and then download the videoing and catalog it and all those things that you need to do. It takes a lot of time, and you just can't do that when you're trying to do that in 5 days. It doesn't happen. So social driving, driver's license, know that this is going to happen. Other people are going to do things goofy. People are not going to be driving the speed limit. They're going to be driving the flow of traffic. And when you're getting your driver's license, you are going to have to drive the posted speed limit, which is really, really tough when you're learning how to drive and you're working with your mentor, or you're working with a driving instructor. Everybody else is speeding past you, and you're required to do the posted speed limit to earn your driver's license. It's really tough when you're on the roadway and dealing with social driving and other people not signaling, not communicating effectively, doing all kinds of goofy things on the roadway, and you are required to drive according to the road rules to keep yourself safe, and doing all these shoulder checks and those types of things. And the number of smart drivers or people that come on the channel and say, oh, you don't have to shoulder check and you don't have to do all those observations. You don't have to signal 3 times when you're doing the 3-point turn and whatnot. Yes, you do. Okay? Because it is about putting in place habits, creating those habits of keeping 2 to 3 second following distance in front of you, the habits of shoulder checking every time you turn the vehicle, every time you change directions of the vehicle, signaling every time you back out of a parking space, or indicating to other road users what you're doing, because we all make mistakes. I make mistakes when I drive, and I realize that sometimes if I'm signaling and those types of things, this is what happens, is you try to put in place those habits so that you drive safely when you're tired, when you're distracted, when you make mistakes, because it happens, right? And as I said, we were talking about earlier in terms of case studies, you will get into unfamiliar places and you'll get onto a roadway where there are several things going on all at the same time. Those old roadway infrastructures where the acceleration lane and the deceleration lane on and off the freeway are one and the same, and you got to figure out what everybody else is doing, and you got to figure out whether you need to give way or somebody else needs to give way, and those types of things. All of this is something that you need to deal with in the arena of social driving, and it's something that is going to happen to you. Again, sometimes it's just a matter of letting your foot off the throttle and letting the other person go and have their crash somewhere else. Corey, 90 miles an hour roughly equals 140. Wow, that's wild. Whenever I think of times I've seen people going that fast in Manitoba, I usually see them getting pulled over down the road by police. Yes, 90 is fast. Displaying number 1 when persons are frustrated for no reason. One of the best things that ever happened to me when I was driving, and I just laughed and I got on the microphone because I was driving the bus. I remember distinctly I was in Shepparton in New South Wales. Shepparton, I believe it's in New South Wales. Might be in Victoria, the state of Victoria, the state of New South Wales in Australia. And we were on a multi-lane road. And the car pulled up beside the bus, and one of the passengers in the car mooned the bus. And of course, I just thought it was the best thing ever. Of course, I have a weird sense of humor, so I just thought it was the funniest thing ever that the bus got mooned by one of the passengers in this car as they were going past the bus. Yes. Last question, Rick. What do you think of driving school schedules, the road test for you? What they ended up doing to my brother was give him as much easier road test location, no open. Bricks, epic. One of the things, if you can get your driver's license, you just need to get your driver's license and then work on being a better driver after you get your driver's license. It doesn't matter how you get your driver's license. Just get your driver's license, right? Carry, shoulder checking is really important when turning to make sure there are no vulnerable road users in your path. Yes, and make sure there's no pedestrians, no cyclists, those types of things when you're turning and driving and those types of things. So thank you everybody for your participation. Thank you for the super chat. Really great live stream. Great to be back, and we will see you next week. They'll be back on Tuesdays next week. I'll get all this back on track and we'll get going. Epic just said that Shepherd is in Victoria. Thank you for reminding me of that. I couldn't remember. Australian highways allow 70, 80 miles an hour on undivided highways. Yes. So, no. Tuesdays. We're going back to Tuesdays at 4 o'clock will be the streaming. So, good luck in your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye.